again. So this study was funded by the Canadian Urological Association, the Astellas research grant. We're grateful for them for their support. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there is a strong association between lower urinary tract symptoms and falls in older people. Estimates of effect range from about 1.2 to 5.4 in various studies. Unfortunately, if you read the systematic reviews or various opinion pieces, people have blithely put forward the view that either there is no causal link, or it's because everyone who this occurs to is frail, or one paper said it was because people are incontinent on the floor and then slip in their own urine. There's actually very little temporal association between falls and LUTs in older people. The Japanese study showed only about 14% of falls in people with LUTs in Parkinson's disease were associated with going to and from the bathroom. Similar numbers from a case control study in London. My colleague, Professor Booth, published a few years ago showing that middle-aged women experiencing a strong desire to void didn't speed up and rush to get to the bathroom, which is the other thing that everyone always says, this is what I research, it's because people are running to the toilet. People actually Joe's work showed that people slowed down. Again, diverted attention has been shown to induce gait changes in older people, and we hypothesized that urinary urgency in older adults with OAB acts as a source of diverted attention, and this is part of the link between falls and low urinary tract symptoms. So this again was a repeated measures within subjects design in adults aged over 65 with a clinical diagnosis of OAB, and we used 3D instrumented gait analysis to analyze their gait patterns under 3 conditions. Undistracted, distracted by the NBAC test, again, listening to a list of letters being read out and alerting the tester when the letter is the same as 1, 2 in the 2 back in the sequence, and when experiencing urinary urgency. Again, we induced this by asking people to drink non-caffeinated, non-alcoholic fluids freely until they felt that they could not wait any further before going to the bathroom. They experienced a compelling desire to void that was difficult to defer. We also asked our participants to undertake multi-channel subtracted cystometry to allow us to classify them into those with the true overactivity and those without. That's because people with urgency and DO tend to have their urgency at lower bladder volumes, tend to have more severe symptoms. We were interested in seeing if the presence or absence of DO moderated any observed effects. So we looked at gait variables of velocity, cadence and stride length, so temporal-spatial variables, under 3 conditions and compared them using repeated measures ANOVA. We also looked at the kinematic data of where they were in space, looking at the trunk lean and the foot floor angle at the time of heel strike. So these are the data which the Gait Lab give us. So to orientate you, these blobs here this is C7, this is the sternal notch, and these are the 2 feet on the calcaneum and between the 2nd and 3rd metatarsal heads. So this is our participant walking through the Gait Lab. And from these, our gait analyst, show that again. Our gait analysis can work out exactly where they were. We're sampling these data 120 times a second, so you get very, very accurate measures of velocity, cadence, and joint position. So these are our results. So the temporospatial data was taken from the feet, and we had 27 participants for this. And you can see from here that people's velocity at baseline was 1.1 meter per second, reduced to 1.0 with urgency and 0.8 with distraction. And those differences were both statistically significant. Stride length also reduced, and there was no change in step width or cadence. Our kinematic data, unfortunately, one of our participants was too tall, so the C7 marker left the field of vision of the camera, so we couldn't collect his data. But on these, we've demonstrated that the forward lean increased slightly with the urgency state, but not with the distraction state. It's something we need to look into further, but we could hypothesize that if you're contracting your pelvic floor, you get a posterior pelvic tilt, and therefore potentially get a compensatory forward lean. But these were quite small changes, but worthy of further investigation. So in this study, we've demonstrated that older adults with overactive bladder demonstrate changes in their temporospatial gait of velocity and stride length when experiencing urgency and when being distracted. The presence of diffuse activity on urodynamics didn't moderate that effect, a p-value of 0.77, but only 7 of our participants had DO, so the numbers are very small there. Urgency but not distraction induced a small increase in forward lean, which may well be a biomechanical effect. This is certainly worthy of further investigation, and these results may partially explain the association between falls and low urinary tract symptoms in older people. Clearly, the next step is to take a group of people with overactive bladder, treat them either pharmacologically or with dual task physiotherapy, and see if these results then change. Thank you very much.
The floor is open for questions.
Really nice series of talks. I was wondering, do you know of any data showing that the falls occur during a sensation of urgency, or is that being assumed? Because
there's data that show that they don't. So there's data show that people with low urinary tract symptoms, their falls aren't associated with getting to and from the bathroom. So to follow on from what we were saying before about urgency being continually suppressed, if you are less able or requires greater attentional demand to do that, that may well explain why the association is there.
Hi, I'm Licia from Canada. Thank you for your 3 nice presentations. I hope I understood it right, but I think you only had trackers in the feet and in the C7, right?
C7 and sternal arch, yeah.
I'm just wondering if you think it would be interesting also to have trackers in the hip and knees, because I think it could tell you a little bit more about the posture that they are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually did that. We presented those data in Rio, I think. Yes, the problem was we had 10 people, 10 older women with OAB in that study. Their baseline gaits were so variable that we couldn't get any usable within participant variability. I think what the interesting study would be to get some student nurses or someone to walk with a voluntary pelvic floor contraction and see how that affected their kinematic gait data. But with older adults, with all the other changes to their gait, we felt it didn't give us much useful information.
One last question. Could you tell us your impression about why do those patients have this problem with diverted attention?
Yeah, how long have we got?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm sorry about the question, but I think it's quite important.
Yeah, so I think tying all these results together and other work, we know that older adults with increased white matter hyperintensity burden on MRI are more likely to have low urinary tract symptoms, they're more likely to be frail, they're more likely to have falls. If we consider the control of continence as an active cognitive process, so our frontal lobes are continually holding Barrington's nucleus into a storage mode. So we've got continual cognitive activity. If you are young or if you are a robust older person with a very healthy and normal brain, it takes less attentional demand and less cognitive resource to do that. If you are older, frailer, have white matter hyperintensities, have OAB, you are less able to cope with that, hence seeing the increase in falls. So if we accept that urgency is acting as a source of diverted attention for everyone, which I think these data support, then it is more difficult for older people and frailer people to compensate for that, hence the observed increase in risk in falls. Thank you.